the Runeterra community as well as people at Riot Games. And it made me think of a video that I posted a while ago, and I unlisted it when I thought that things weren't looking so great, which was well over a year ago at this point. I actually posted this literally 4 years ago yesterday, so it's a little, the coincidence of it all is a bit mind-boggling to me, but I thought going over it would be interesting to see my thoughts of what they were then and what they are now, and then also explain, just exactly what I think about everything. So let's go ahead and get to it.
Stone overrated, Magic outdated. How long have we awaited? Wait, no, not that. Runeterra! Legends of Runeterra is what we've been waiting for.
Artifact
and with that,
days.
here are my top 10 reasons why Legends of Runeterra will be a successful card game. Number 1, people are ready for something new. People have been playing Magic and Hearthstone for many years now, and they both have their flaws, and people have pretty much been waiting for another game to come take the spot. A lot of people believed it would be Artifact, but as we know, that didn't quite happen. The fact that people are even looking for this type of game is really important for the market.
So, at the time when this came out, like 4 years ago, this was the time where Hearthstone's, throne was kind of, faltering a bit. And everyone was like, it was also when the big Blizzard controversies happened. So people were like, yeah, let's, screw this game, let's go to something else. So at the time, it doesn't feel that way. But at this time, it definitely felt like that. There was definitely a shift of people looking for something new.
Wanting to see a new card
so
game,
at the time, this was true. I wouldn't say it's true now.
It's something that's really helpful. Number 2 is monetization. Another reason why people have been sick of other card games is because the way that they handle their monetization.
It's true.
The monetization is greedy at best. It's usually just not been fun. It feels like you're always stuck acquiring cards, can't ever play the deck that you want to play without dropping a bunch of money on it, and it's been like this for many games. This isn't just a 1 or 2.
It is, but it freaking works, and it's so frustrating that it is what works. It's
game problem. Yeah, it's pretty consistent across the board. There are some really nice free-to-play games, but Runeterra is promising us something different. Riot has made us the promise that we don't want you to spend all of your time just trying to collect cards,
and they did
and that we want to monetize off the cosmetics instead. Obviously, I don't necessarily think it's going to be as good as they say it is.
The skeptic in me was like,
I don't know if it's gonna work. It's like, I still can't play all the champs I want to, but with Runeterra, hopefully that's the case. It is free-to-play friendly. It sounds like it will be at least better.
They did keep with their promise, which is
3 wins,
really
10
cool.
gold, 100 gold per pack is just flat out ridiculous. I know they have their daily quests, but it is just not very friendly whatsoever. That is a
real quick. I played Hearthstone free to play for 3, 4, 5 years. I don't know. I played since the beta, and then I was in college, and I had to take a break for a month because I really need to focus on my studies. And because I didn't keep up with stuff, I just couldn't make the decks I wanted to play anymore because of the 1 month.
A lot of
that's
time
why
to acquire a collection,
stopped playing
just for
and moved to Tesla and then to LoR.
Asking you to buy another bundle. Pretty much, if you're a fan of online card games, you should really be rooting for Runeterra to do good. If they're able to make this a new monetization style, it could just be huge, especially if you're a free-to-play player. The fact that they're promising that they're going to
LoR failing is really bad for the free-to-play players in general. I mean, there's still going to be games that are going to use free-to-play to get players in, but the predatory monetization is just going to keep going up because that's what's working. LoR actually tried to do a really good job of taking this moral high ground and getting players to trust them, and it just made players not end up buying stuff. It's not just the player's fault either. It's obviously Riot didn't quite give us the cosmetics
to make our life easier is something that we all want.
Yeah,
we want to be able to play multiple card games
options, and we didn't quite get them
to one because it's so expensive to keep up with one card game. I think that the monetization is going to be a huge plus. So far, I think it's going to be better than other things, but we don't know for sure until it really comes out, and it will still be in beta.
I'm so skeptic.
And we'll have to see if they decide to change things. I saw that they were toying with the XP a little bit, so hopefully that
this is me thinking that they're gonna be either too free to play friendly and it's going to happen what's happening now, or that they're going to realize that they're too free to play friendly and they're going to change it and it's going to disappoint the player base. I was very skeptic of this monetization scheme, and this is my friendly way of putting it, of I'm not sure about
favorable
this.
For us.
I was hopeful, but
I really hope
I was
that I'm able to play
worried.
this game without just dumping a bunch of money on it. That's not a fun part of a card game. I understand they need to make their money, but at the same time, I would much rather pay for a cosmetic and be able to play the game and enjoy the cosmetic
for a lot of them.
than not being able to play the game because I can't afford any cards. Number 3 is an easy to work with and smooth client. A smooth client is probably something that a lot of people undervalue and don't think about much, but it's really important. The ability to feel like everything's very interactive, and that you know exactly where to go. If you have a confusing client, it makes it hard to get new people in because they are just so overwhelmed by this complex client that doesn't necessarily work or it crashes or whatever. It's really important. It's so smooth. You know exactly what's going on. The little eye that you have on the game board that lets you know the interactions beforehand is just amazing.
The Oracle is like the best part of LoR
and I don't know what's going to happen because all these effects are stacked on top of each other and it doesn't really make any sense. So being able to see how everything's going to play out before I play my card is really, really nice. It is probably my favorite aspect of the client. And I feel like I can navigate it really well, and it's pretty much made for anyone can navigate it really well. I think that's something that a lot of people kind of look past, and they don't really think about how important that is. But if you're looking to get new players, especially players who have never played a card game before, them having an easy way to navigate through it is super, super important. So I think that's a good reason of why this should be one of the top 10 reasons that Runeterra will be successful.
Especially when you're doing as many movements as you are in LoR.
And with having a smooth client, that brings me to number 4, is also having a very interactive game. Riot's design team has done an amazing job about making a game where you are in the game the entire time. You're always interacting, you're always doing something. It's not you sitting there waiting 5 hours for your opponent to play their next card
that happens,
or decide whether they're going to train to something or not. You're always
sometimes you have to wait too long for your
cards
opponent.
To play, if you're going to be playing cards, if you're going to save for a spell or make a spell,
you're always there's a lot more spell chains earlier on to the game than most so later.
Someone play solitaire or just trying to smork the entire time, but it feels like you're always making decisions, whether it be to set up things or to interact with your opponent's board in the way or another. There is interaction throughout the entire turn on both sides, so it is just incredibly
nice. That was so unique of LoR.
And with the mana system, you don't have to worry about being mana screwed or mana flooded, which is one of the biggest complaints in Magic, is the fact that some games just aren't games, and overall in Runeterra, it seems like that's going to be pretty low. I'm sure there's times where your mulligan's just going to get terrible and you won't draw well. It happens in pretty much every card game. It's just something that we have to accept. But in Runeterra, it's something special. I was like,
can I get over at this point now? Sorry about that.
With my opponent. Which brings me to number 5, which is your decisions matter and that your deck building matters. For decisions in Runeterra, there is some.
I'm gonna pass this one because like
a very high amount of class identity. Like the color system in other games, Legends of Runeterra utilizes a strong lore, which is broken up into different regions. So if you play League of Legends, you're familiar with these regions, and you know that there's actually more too, which Riot has talked about adding. The current ones that we have right now are Demacia, Freylord, Ionia, Noxus, Piltover, and Zon, and the Shadow Isles. Each of these regions is home to different champions, which can be used to build different decks around.
I think this was really important, but I think I'm gonna go ahead and skip that as well.
Number 7 is immersive.
I do think that having strong class identity was really strong for a game that was very much about expanding upon the lore. And I think that mixing that and making neutral cards wouldn't be the way to go unless all the neutrals were essentially Bandle City. Like if they were Yordles were neutral cards, then I think it could make sense. But besides that, I think that not having neutral cards was really good for Legends of Runeterra. Next one, more lore related stuff.
Character dialogue. This is not something that I personally care about that much. I'm not super big into lore overall. I find it somewhat interesting, but I do like this as someone who played League of Legends for a long time, watching the characters interact with each other. So you see the champions, they'll play one and the other one gets played, and the one banters or insults the other, and it's great. And it's just something about that that makes the game feel so much more lively, and I enjoy it. 8 is that Riot is a master.
This is the hardest one. Riot is a master of marketing and monetization, and this is where young, hopeful me is. I had so much faith, I feel like. I just remember thinking like, oh, they're doing something different. They obviously have this really great plan, like something innovative to make money through only cosmetics, since most games really required you to buy cards to be, to really, for their profits, of course. And it makes sense because cards being released all the time is what make money for a lot of games.
Talked about this earlier, how Riot's monetization plan is more about cosmetics rather than making you pay for the cards to actually play the game, which I think is a great idea. But if you've played League of Legends, you know how good Riot is at getting their game out there. It is so hard not to buy things on League of Legends. They make the best skins, and they're always eye-catching, have this great theme about it, the art is great, they look great in game.
That's exactly what I
can't
expected
imagine
in
all the
LoR.
things they are going to tempt me to purchase in Runeterra, and I will probably cave. I can't lie about it, but they're already doing their pets on the side, which is a common thing, and other games have been doing this. They have their game boards, and I'm sure they'll add other things that I haven't even thought of yet.
Yeah. That's me being too optimistic, I guess. I'm sure they'll add things that I haven't even thought of yet. There's so many things they could have added and done, for sure. Like, my assumption was, like, you know, they would know that people weren't going to buy a new board every single time, or a new Guardian every single time. I did for about 2 years, I would say, but, like, at some point I was like, I can only use one board, I can only use one Guardian, and I really want something new. And they did the alternate arts, but there's no animations in the card itself, or there was the alternate level up animations, finishers for killing the opponent's nexus and stuff. I think would have been really big as well, but they needed to do something innovative and different, and they didn't do that. They didn't really, like, the production value of LoR is so high, and I don't think that the cosmetics were terrible, as people say. Like, all people are like, oh, they're really lackluster and stuff. I think it's just like, we've been here, we've done that before. We wanted to see something new, something that really made us say, like, I have to have that. Also, just like prestige stuff tends to do really well, even though, like, a lot of players won't buy it. You kind of have to still cater to people that will, because they are funding the game. But it's so rough seeing this.
20 billion different designs for it. Riot knows exactly what their audience wants, and they are so
I thought that, yeah. I mean, they started off good, but they didn't really innovate and push afterwards. Like, starting with the things they started with made sense. And I don't know if it's because the ideas weren't there, which I think would be unlikely, but maybe it was just like they didn't make enough money off the original cosmetics. They're like, why would we go into something more expensive? I'm not sure.
And that is something that, if they're getting their money, then they're gonna keep designing, and that's why I expect the game to last long. Like, I feel like this game is going to be here for a long time, because Riot knows what they're doing. They've learned from their mistakes in League of Legends, and they've learned how to build an empire with League of Legends, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. They know how to get this game out there and how to monetize it, which actually brings me—
I've never been so wrong in my life, apparently. That's gonna make me really sad.
To point number
not the
9,
wrong part,
which is influencers will be rushing to the game, which is just free advertising.
So
the fact that you have all these people from League of Legends, from Hearthstone, from Magic, and other games just kind of piling in on—
No. Okay, like, originally it kind of did start that way. We had a couple people, like, I remember seeing, like, Dog and Hyped and some others. But, like, some of the other really big, like, card game players at the time, like, technically Disguised Host was there for, like, a little bit, but he only made, like, a handful of videos and left, which was fine. Like, I was expecting more people from, like, the TFT scene, or, like, from Hearthstone scene, but because audiences are so fickle about things, especially with card games uniquely have this issue, because you can generally only have enough time to really commit to one. People are very, like, big into their game, and they're very protective of that one, and they don't want to see their streamer stream something else. That hasn't been an issue with Legends of Runeterra players, but in Hearthstone, oh yeah, it's an issue for sure, where people are like, oh, did you quit Hearthstone, did you do this, that? So a lot of people just didn't want to deal with their community giving them backlash for trying a different game, especially when they were competition with each other. Also too, I remember seeing, like, Dog when he played this game, Legends of Runeterra, and then he, like, went to go craft more decks. He wasn't able to, and then he stopped playing, at least for that day. He stopped playing for a bit, because you didn't have the option to create more decks. Like, they just kind of like alienated their players at the very start from buying stuff. Like, I remember buying all 3 of each card so I could make new cards every week, but it only unlocked every week, and I would have spent a lot more money, but they just didn't let me, and that didn't feel good.
Runeterra, knowing that this is going to be the next big thing for the most part, it is free marketing. You have all these viewers that will be there, even if they haven't heard of the game somehow, which is pretty unlikely at this point. If they're on Twitch at all, they're going to most likely know what the game is, but maybe they haven't checked it out, or they weren't able to access the beta yet, but they're going to see their favorite streamer play it, and they're going to play it too.
Yeah, their favorite streamer is gonna go play it. Okay, like I said, some did, but like overall, at the end, we had like a couple streamers that pulled in 2-ish K, 2, maybe 3K, you know, such as like Mogwai and stuff. But after that, we didn't really have any big people stay. There was no disguised, like there's no 10K Andy in the game that like really pushed it over the edge. We didn't even have a 5K Andy. So not having that definitely hurts. And it just kind of stagnated from there. And not that Twitch numbers are the only important thing, but it does still matter, and it is still community building. And there wasn't as much like free advertising as I was expecting LoR to get from some of these big streamers. I was also expecting, I know LoR, like, you know, they paid Crypt to advertise it, I remember, for instance. Like, there were some people that were paid to advertise it, but there wasn't as much natural interest in it as I was expecting. And like I said, I mentioned some of those reasons why I thought that might be the case. But yeah, that was definitely disappointing to see that. Yeah, I do know that of some people that were bigger streamers that they didn't touch the game because they couldn't just buy all the cards. I know a couple of them that was the case for them, and then also some that just didn't want to deal with the retaliation of playing a Riot card game compared to what they were playing before.
I think it's going to have a huge
it makes sense now that I know, but at the time I didn't
of League of Legends IP. In the real world, we have IPs like Apple and McDonald's, but in the gaming world, we have League of Legends, which is arguably the strongest IP out there. There's other ones too that are very strong, it's up there. But the empire that Riot has built with League of Legends is just insane. This game is done everywhere and has been successful for so many years, and it just only keeps on going up. It's nuts what Riot has been able to do with this IP and what it's able to do with this game. I'm of the opinion that League of Legends IP is so strong that you can make a pretty mediocre game and it's still going to do well for many years.
You might think this is wrong, but it's correct in the sense. So like Riot, what happened with Riot with Legends of Runeterra? They actually made a really good game. The production and the game itself is fantastic, but they didn't do well at monetizing it. But if they would have made a mediocre game but did like a gacha monetization system to like allow you to do like your favorite champions and stuff like that, then the game would have done better monetarily, which really sucks. But I think it's the reality of it. Is like, when I say mediocre, obviously it has to be like somewhat passable. It can't just be like, this game's terrible. But if it's like a mid game, then with good monetization, it would have been more successful than Runeterra, which is a great game with terrible monetization. And man, that realization just sucks so much. Because like I said, I don't think that point is wrong. It's just they didn't monetize the game properly. The launch of the game wasn't that great either. That's something I want to make a video on in the future too, where people talk about advertising and marketing. And I think the launch definitely wasn't a good start. But there's other issues to that as well.
Just because of how strong the IP is. However, I don't think Riot has made a mediocre game. I don't think this game's been a cash grab. It has been in the works for many years. This
I don't think it was ever a cash grab.
They're going to make to get into the card game genre and
I wish other people felt that way, I guess.
If they want to do that, they would have done it many years ago.
Doesn't equal
but they're doing it now after
game.
Working hard on the product and something that you can tell that people are passionate about who are working on it. I don't know about you, but I'm really excited to see where Legends of Runeterra goes. I think the game is going to be incredibly successful. It's really hard for it not to be with Riot behind the steering wheel. Just because the game has great monetization or IP doesn't mean the game is guaranteed to be successful, but wow, it really does help. It helps a lot. You have to really mess up really hard to ruin.
That stings even more. Oh, wow. That stings even more. Okay, well, that's the video. I'll probably talk about my thoughts more about this in the future when things sting a little bit less. Thanks for watching, and just let me know your thoughts. I know everyone has a bit different thoughts, and I'll see you later. Bye.